lesson, we will read From Bartering to Bills, the History of Money, and then we will answer 7 multiple choice questions on this article. So if it says it's an article, we would know that this is a nonfiction text, which means it's true. So this one is an informative text. We could say historical. So here we go. Micah herded his 2 woolly sheep to his neighbor's tent. He hoped to trade them for a cow that could pull his plow. Many thousands of years ago, in Micah's time, people didn't use money. They got the things they needed by bartering, trading goods and services with their neighbors. A deal was final when people agreed that it was a fair trade. So this would be the definition of bartering, when you're trading something without money. As populations grew, simple exchanges between neighbors didn't always work. The products people wanted were not always available. Also, it was often difficult to agree on the value of the goods or services being traded. Large marketplaces began to grow, where people from many villages and cities could trade with each other. Marketplaces provided a wide selection of goods, but they also created a need for a new system of trading. Ancient people needed something with a value everyone agreed on: money. The first money developed was commodity money. Commodities are things that everyone values enough to accept as payment. The commodities used for trade varied from place to place, depending on what the local people valued. For example, around 5,000 years ago, barley was a main source of food for the people of ancient Mesopotamia. Everyone valued barley, so the grain was used for trade. So in this case, commodities still exist today. Oil is a commodity, gold, silver, copper, tungsten. Those would all be examples of commodities that people still use. Well, you could say currency, like paper currency, is technically backed with gold, but people do trade in commodities. Around 1,000 years later, people in China used cowrie shells to buy things they needed. In many countries on the Mediterranean Sea, salt was imported for preserving food. Because salt was valuable, it was used as money. At different times in different places, other commodities were used for trade: fish hooks, leather, beads, feathers, and even whale's teeth. The commodity system worked well, but it wasn't perfect. Sometimes the commodities valued by the majority of people weren't valued by others. Also, the specific commodities had their own sets of problems. Salt, for example, wasn't easy to store and would dissolve if it got wet. And carrying a pile of fish hooks could be a prickly situation. The citizens of Yap, an island country in the Pacific Ocean, used stone discs for money. Some of them were 12 feet in diameter and weighed 500 pounds. You can imagine the problems those might have caused. In different parts of the world, people began to see the need for some kind of standard money. It had to be valuable to everyone, easy to carry, and hard to destroy. Some metal coins provided the answer. The first coins were made of metal by Greek settlers living in Lydia, now Turkey, about 2,600 years ago. The coins were made from a metal called electrum, a mixture of gold and silver. The king's symbol, a lion's head, was stamped on each coin to remind the people of Lydia that their king approved of their money. The coins had specific values and weights. Use of coins spread rapidly throughout the Mediterranean world. The Romans also used coins, and Roman traders and soldiers spent Roman coins in other parts of the world. Soon, other cities and countries began making their own coins too. So this would have been when the Romans were spreading their culture and values and even the currency systems they were using. Chinese coins were made with holes in the center, so they could be carried on strings. After paper was invented, the Chinese began to print pictures of their coins on pieces of paper, creating the first paper money. Heavy strings of coins could now be exchanged for a single sheet of paper. When the British colonists arrived in North America in the early 1600s, they bartered with each other and with the American Indians they met. Much later, the government of the United States established its own money system using dollars and cents. As you know, the dollar can be broken down into 100 cents, or pennies. At first, only coins were used in the United States. Then the first bills were printed in the mid-1800s. Because green ink was used on the back of the bills, they were called greenbacks. In the United States today, we only use coins and bills, but we also write checks and use credit cards. However, many people still use the ancient system of bartering for goods and service. If you've ever traded a bag of chips for some cookies or exchanged baseball cards with a friend, then you too have bartered. Some money experts think that one day, bills and coins will no longer be used. Instead, all transactions will be made electronically. When and if that happens, however, do you think people will stop bartering with each other? I would have to say probably not, because this is just something people do if they're trading stuff, even if it's like informal, like the chips and the cookies. And you could also say the introduction of crypto, like Bitcoin, we could see if that changes things. And then they're also going to have tokenized assets, which would be kind of like crypto, but it'd be like crypto coins basically, backed by actual copper or actual gold or whatever it is people would find valuable. So this would be our reading for From Bartering to Bills, the History of Money. And then we will look at our questions here. And so you take some time to do the questions and come back to our next video.